This is a WATD Political Forum on 95.9 WATD, online at 959WATD.com. Now, live from Studio B, here's your moderator, WATD's Christine James.
Good evening and welcome to a WATD Political Forum. I'm your moderator, Christine James, joined by WATD reporter Tom Gorman and Chris Helms from the Enterprise asking questions. This election race is for the mayor of Brockton. Both candidates are in studio with us tonight, Jean Bradley Derenoncourt and Moises Rodrigues. Timing you all is our own Charlie Fulmer, and we're joined by our media partner tonight, Brockton Community Access. Thank you so much for joining us. And we just want to let you know, our listeners, tonight's normal programming, the Bethany Builders podcast, is off this week so that we may bring you the Brockton Mayoral Forum. Chris and Sophia Bethany, along with Steve Burton and Christina Fourier, all excited to hear tonight's forum and looking forward to being back with you on the radio next Tuesday night at 7. And this is an exciting night. I'm just going to go over the format with you. For those of you that are regular listeners, you know we always use the same format. We've asked the candidates to have prepared opening and closing statements ready, no longer than 2 minutes for the open and a 1-minute close, please. Then we have a round of questions from the reporters with answers limited to a minute. Then we're going to do our lightning round, my favorite, because nobody running for office can answer anything succinctly, where answers are either yes or no or 2 sentences tops. The reporter will tell you what kind of an answer they want. And also, please try to keep your answers to around a minute. If you consistently go over, ramble, or start to repeat yourself, then you get the bell. And Charlie, we explain that green is go, yellow is you've got 10 seconds, red is stop. If you're still talking, you get the 5-second grace countdown. If you're still talking, you get the bell, and if you're still talking after that, then we will cut your microphone, which we've got to keep things moving. Of course, it is radio. Now, just a few moments ago, we chose the opening and closing order out of the official WATD stand-in newsroom koozie. The opening statement, we're going to begin with Moises Rodrigues, then we're going to go to Jean Bradley Derenoncourt, and then we reverse that at the end of the order, at the end of the forum, rather. So let's say good evening again, and let's start tonight and say good evening to Moises.
Well, good evening, Christine, and good evening, the folks at WATD. Good evening, Chris and Tom, for doing this. But before we begin, I just want to leave my thoughts and prayers to the folks in Jamaica that are going through some horrible times down there, just to let them know that they're not alone. We're here with them in thoughts and prayers and whatever we can do to help them go through this whole thing. As you said, my name is Moises Rodrigues, and I'm a Brockton resident. I've been a Brockton resident for the last 46 years. I was born in Cape Verde. I grew up in Angola, and I've been in Brockton since I was 16. Graduated from Brockton High School, went on to college, served 6 years in the United States Navy. I am married. I have 3 children, 2 grandkids. I'm a homeowner. I pay water bills and tax bills. And I've been in the city council for the last 11 and a half, almost 12 years now. Tonight, we'll be discussing who's the most qualified individual to run a city of $614 million budget, and who's able to supervise close to 5,000 employees that the city has. I'm here to continue my job interview. I consider this a job application. You have to have a resume in order for you to have a job interview and be able to get hired to do the job. My opponent has been running for mayor for the last 8 years. I have been governing for the last 12 years, including 7 months as mayor here in this city. The question for this job interview should be, what budgetary or supervisory experience do each one of us have to become mayor in this city? The question that we should all ask is, what are we going to bring different to the city of Brockton? What have we done different for the city? Wishful thinking alone is not enough. My history and credibility and experience speaks for itself, and unlike others, my word is bond. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions.
Thank you very much. That was the opening statement from Moises Rodrigues. Now, opening statement from Jean Bradley Derenoncourt.
Excellent. Good evening, Christine and Tom and Chris. It is truly an honor to be here, and of course to the folks who are listening and those of you who will be watching this. Obviously, the proudest moment of my life was the day that I became a U.S. citizen, whereby I was able to take that oath and become an American. And I will never, ever forget that day. And also the moment that I was hired to be a busboy at Chris's restaurant when I first moved in this country. And obviously, those of you who are watching and listening, you can see that I have an accent. It means that I was not born here. But as an American, that's what we are. The ability to come from somewhere, move to a place like here, and being able to do something for yourself. What I did when I first came, I went straight to the library to learn English so I can understand not just the culture, but what it means to be a true American. From working as a busboy and learning English, I went on to graduate from Master's at Community College as one of the top students, and then went to Suffolk University and graduated with distinction. And obviously, I'm 35 years old. So for the past so many years that I've been in this country, I've been assumed responsibility. And we justify that. My first governmental job was working for former Mayor Balzotti at City Hall, whereby I learned what it means to serve and what government can do for all of us. And I went on to work for Senator Brady in the House, Governor Patrick, ordered a bump, and carry on. So tonight, this is not about me. It's about the future of our city, who we are as a community, what we stand for, and where we want to go. When it's come down to experiences, well, I will not make any personal attack. I will focus on the issues, like neighborhoods, like safety, like taxes, stuff that are challenging our communities, and making sure that every single kid in the city of Brockton receive the best education that they deserve. That's what you will hear from me. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the opening statement of Jean Bradley, Derenoncourt. Now let's go to questions from our reporters. Let's start with Chris Helms from the Brockton Enterprise. Chris?
Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Helms. I'm a reporter with the Brockton Enterprise, and I had the pleasure of covering both of these gentlemen for several years now. So let me start off. This kind of builds off something that you mentioned, Jean Bradley. So one of you is going to be the 51st mayor of Brockton, Massachusetts. Can you please first name a former mayor you admire and why? What lessons from that mayor will you apply as you put your own stamp on the office?
Well, I'll tell you, Linda Balzotti. So as somebody who was able not just to know former Linda Mayor Balzotti, but also understand what it means to have a woman in charge. And she was the first woman that I see leading a city that is so diverse. So for me, Mayor Balzotti would be the mayor that I would actually name.
Moses, same question?
Well, for me, it would be a little different. There would be Mayor Harrington, Jim Harrington, because he took over a city, and then we had the bottom fall off during the budget crisis. During the housing crisis, where we were able, I was part of that administration, we were able to hold on to every job in the city. We didn't lay off a single individual. And that to me shows governance, shows the ability to manage what we were given. So I would say that Jim Harrington to me was the mayor that actually was a staple in the staples of the city of Brockton for being able to manage the affairs of the city and keep everything afloat.
Thanks. Tom Gorman, questions for the candidates?
What do you feel is the biggest issue that's now facing Brockton?
Let's start with Moses this time.
I think one of the biggest issues that we have is the disparage that exists in taxation in our community. When you look at it, the city basically relies heavily on its residents to pay taxes, to pay property taxes. And we don't have the business, the quantity of businesses that other communities have to help us balance things out. When you're relying on residents to pay for around 74% of your taxes, and your commercial base is only bringing in 22, 23, 24%, that is the biggest thing, because with more taxes that we get to come in, then we can focus on the issues that we have, which is the issues of safety in our streets, the issues of the homeless that we have facing our community, the issues that we have in the schools. We got to come up with $1 gazillion to be able to redo our high schools. So we can't do that if we don't somehow develop our tax basis to increase the taxation in our communities.
Same question.
And again, I mean, it's pretty easy. So I'll say this again. I will not raise your taxes. I just want to say this on the record. In terms of the issues, I think the number one issues that we have in the city of Brockton right now is public safety and also a lack of trust in the government, whereby people feel, challenged by what has been going on. Because obviously, I'm not the first one to say it. The city of Brockton has a safety problems when it's come down to the government and, of course, what has been going on in the street. So what I will do as the next mayor of Brockton, I will come up with a solution by working in collaboration with the police and the community, which is what I call community policing. Because in order for you to save, if not to protect people, they gotta be able to trust the government. There's something, there's a saying, if you see something, say something. As we speak, it doesn't matter what's going on, there are people that will not speak out because they don't trust certain people in our government, and that will change.
Any follow-up on that?
A follow-up, you mentioned about the commercial base. What would you do to increase the commercial base and bring more businesses to Brockton?
Well, we have to make our city a little more attractive. Right now, Brockton is not the prettiest of cities. I think we were just labeled not too long ago the ugliest city in Massachusetts. And I think we have to change that perception. Do what we can to clean up our streets. Go after the most offenders that we actually have that continuously do not take care of their properties to make it more appealing to the eyes in a sense, because it's kind of hard for us to get a business to come into a community and they come in, they turn around and they leave because they can't. We also have some problems where the red tape continues to be. In Bridgewater, in West Bridgewater, you can go to West Bridgewater to the counter to get your, let's say, a roofing permit. You can get that in the same day. In Brockton, it takes you 2 weeks to get. So those types of things is what is hindering the development of business in our community, and those are the things that we must work with to change that entire perception so that individuals can invest in our community, and thus providing with the needed taxes. Nobody's talking about increasing taxes because that's not really up to us. We're not the federal government nor the state government to do that.
Thank you. Same question.
Yes, it's like for me personally, there are two things that I think people take deeply under consideration when it's come down to an environment and living. Number one is education and safety. So if you are somebody who's thinking about having a family and moving into a neighborhood, the number one thing that you are looking at is education. The question is, do I trust the school system enough to send my child or my children? Now, if we have a good educational system, you don't have to worry about taking money and invest it into a private school, right? Number two, is it safe enough for me to make that investment in terms of like renting an apartment, buying housing? So education and public safety go hand in hand. So at the end of the day, as we speak, we all know that we do have a problem in our school system, and that needs to be fixed, especially with the recent deficit of about $19 million, where people do not trust the school system. You've been in power for more than 12 years. So at the end of the day, why would people trust you enough to believe that you can fix it now?
We're asking the questions.
Okay.
Now, while we're on that topic, here's what I'd like to talk about. Let's talk about the schools. That has been, this is a two-part question. One, do you think the mayor should or should not have a seat on the school committee? Moses.
The mayor should definitely have a seat on the school committee. The buck stops with the mayor, and the mayor should have a seat in the school committee.
Okay. Gene Bradley.
I do not believe the mayor should be the chairman of the school committee.
But should the mayor have a seat on the school committee?
I think it should be independent. I think in regard to the recent situation that we've been dealing with, mind you, it's like the mayor is the chairman of that. So I want it to be completely independent, whereby we have elected city council, elected school committee, let them make that decision.
Okay.
I don't believe in doing that.
So you don't think the mayor should have a seat?
Absolutely not.
Okay, let me ask you part two. Now, this was a story that we covered. I know the Enterprise covered it extensively. Are you surprised with all the, and we can't talk about all of it because it would take us 2 hours tonight to get started. Are you at all surprised by what happened with what was portrayed by some as, quote, a surprise budget deficit in the schools? And what needs to change going forward? I think a lot of people couldn't believe what was going on with the budget in the Brockton schools. Where did the money go? They're talking about where does the buck stop? How did this happen? Let's start with you, Gene.
Well, I am not surprising. The problem is that when you have a lack of accountability and, of course, a level of complacency, thereby you are part of that. So it goes to show that we need change. Change not just in the school system, but also who's leading the city. Because there is no way we should have a deficit of $19 million. This is not the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This is the city of Brockton. So to have that level of deficit and people saying that they didn't know In my view, I think it is unacceptable, and it goes to show that there's a lack of respect for taxpayer money, and people are not paying attention. So, and again, to go back to the question that you asked me, I don't believe any mayor should be the chairman or have a seat, like you said, have a seat on that. It should be independent, where the school committee can review their budget, propose it to the mayor, and take it from there.
Okay, well, let me ask you part two here.
Yes.
What we have identified the problem. What do you see specifically? What needs to change going forward? What will affect that change?
Very good. So number one, we must increase accountability. To understand, obviously, there's a CFO, from the school, and of course, we have a CFO for the entire city. There must be one communication. It's not just the school, it's not just the city. The city of Brockton is in charge of the entire government, especially when it's come down to the executive branch. The mayor should be able to understand what's going on there in collaboration to whatever they might call it, either the chairman of the school committee, superintendent, and what have you. So the mayor is a big part of hiring whomever is the superintendent. Currently, we have a person, and I believe she's doing a wonderful job. That's my view. What we have to have is having open communication. How much money we have, how we are spending it, on what we are spending it. To have a deficit of $19 million, where people are saying that they didn't know, in my view, I think it is unacceptable, and that will change.
Okay. Now I was going to ask you two parts. First, and I'll rephrase that again. Are you surprised by what happened with what was portrayed by some as a surprise budget deficit in the schools?
I'm not surprised. And I just want to address something in terms of the chairman of the school committee. We've been in a city for over 100 years. That's always been the same issue. We've never had a problem with it's not a $19 million, it's an $18 million deficit. I know my colleague here has a problem with numbers. It's an $18 million deficit. Now, the problem is that there were some accountability issues where we had lost some students in their system, and our students bring in somewhere around $18,000 per student into the system. So they went ahead accounting that they would have the same number of students moving forward, and not realizing they kept on spending. No money went missing. No one stole any money. It was just a matter of not pulling the handbrakes once they realized in February that they actually had a deficit.
Now, part two, what do you see? What specifically needs to change going forward with the Brockton schools and the budget?
I think we're in the right track. And again, my colleague doesn't quite understand how the system works. The superintendent is hired by the school committee, not the mayor. The superintendent is hired by the school committee, not the mayor. So that will continue to happen whether or not you're part of the school committee or not part of the school committee. What we need to do is put in some guardrails in places to make sure that we stay on top of it month in and month out. And by the way, the deficits that actually took place in Brockton are not unique to Brockton. Most school systems had a deficit because of the transportation, the way transportation was done, and the fact that we are responsible for transporting special needs students sometimes to towns, 3-4 towns over, that becomes costly. So that's what actually led to the deficit of the size that we actually had.
Okay, I'm just going to follow up with one more question, because this was a topic that we actually got a lot of comments and feedback and questions on this. Absolutely. So some people think, a lot of people talk about collaborative government. Everybody giving their ideas and forming an opinion, but some people go back to the old whatever the organization, one neck at the end, one person responsible. And how do you feel about that? Because just, again, I don't have all my information in front of me, but I remember there seemed to be too many people that were able to make big financial decisions with the schools, which I was flabbergasted by. Do you believe in the one neck at the end theory when it comes to money with the schools?
The buck stops at the table of the mayor.
Okay.
At the feet of the mayor.
Okay.
In the school system, for too long, there was a wall that we were basically told the school does whatever the school does and the city does its thing. That's why in my campaign I came up with a theme, one city, one Brockton, not the Brockton side, the city side, not the school side, the city side, but the Brockton side. Because that is actually what had happened in the past. I mean, I have been told by folks in the schools school system, stay in your lane, meaning stay on the city side of things. Don't ask any questions on the school side. For the longest time, it was done as such. And that's why I think we had the issues that we did, because some of us had no idea what was actually taking place in the schools because we're not privy to that information. Usually what happens, the city council approves the budget for the schools, and the schools manages, the school committee and the school system manages the debt.
Okay. Same question, Jim
Absolutely.
Bradley.
I mean, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expect different result. You said it, and I said that, right? The mayor is the chairman of the school committee. So as the chairman of this department, I mean, you are part of everything that is going on. So you said the mayor has nothing to do with hiring the superintendent. But in regard to the ordinances, the mayor is the chairman of that. So with that being said, I don't believe the mayor should involve in that. And just because something has been going on for the past 100 years doesn't mean it is good. And that's a problem that we are having. The question is, do we choose to stay where we are, or do we want to move forward? And that's why I am in this race, to move forward, not to repeat the same situation that you have been part of, not just as an elected official, but also as an employee. So with that being said, during the deficit, you were the city council president,
Now,
not me.
I'm going to give you, since he mentioned you in his answer, I'm going to give you 30 seconds for a response there, Moises.
Well, again, the young man is misinformed that he doesn't even understand that the school committee, the 7 members decide who hires whom. The chair of the school committee, which I have been because when I served as mayor for 7 months, you're basically the overseer of the meetings. You coordinate the meetings of the school committee. You're not on the day-to-day. You do not negotiate contracts. You do not do anything in terms of the day-to-day managing. That is, by law, what the school committee is supposed to do, not the mayor.
Okay. You're listening to a WATD Political Forum. The race is for the mayor of Brockton. We've got both candidates here in studio. We've got Moises Rodrigues and Jean Bradley Derenoncourt. I'm Christine James, your moderator, Tom Gorman from ATD, and Chris Helms from the Enterprise. Let's continue. Chris, questions?
I want to build on the discussion of finances, taxes and services, which is the core of what a city does. So both of you served on the city council, and whichever is chosen mayor, you're going to be on the other side creating the budget, proposing the budget to your former city council colleagues. So that's a whole different ball game. I want to ask each of you, where are you going to look to find savings?
Okay, let's start with you, Jean Bradley.
Excellent. Since the beginning of my campaign, I've been talking about having an audit. And I think that's very important in regard to the deficit that we have been having. So at the end of the day, as somebody who will assume that responsibility, you need to understand what's going on. So the reason I'm talking about the audit is to have a basic understanding of what we have, what has been spending, and where do we go from there. So I don't believe in just assuming we're going to cut to the left and to the right. That's not the point. The point is that to have a basic understanding of what we have in the bank and determine where do we go from there. Accountability will be the start because people must be held accountable. We have an accountability problem in this city. Every resident will tell you, as we speak, they do not trust the government when it's come down to spending. So at the end of the day, as somebody who has been there and done it and always fight for the people on the council, I will look into every single corner and making sure that our money are being spent accordingly. That's what I will do as your next mayor.
Same question, Moises.
Well, I will look at every single department where we can actually tap some savings. That's what we got to do. Some positions that we can eliminate, we'll eliminate. Some positions that we can deal with through attrition, we will. But we also need to increase our funding. And I talked a little bit about, we need to bring more businesses into our community. We need to develop some land that we have. There's 3 properties that I'm looking at in terms of the fairgrounds, the CSX properties, the Spark Street area that's been kind of abandoned for all these years for us to basically bring in some new revenue. Because in order for you to move a city forward, you got to bring in some resources in order for you to develop the infrastructure and some of the things that you have to do. I spoke a little bit about the new high school coming up. That's going to cost us about $120 million out of our own funding to do. So where is that money going to come from? It's going to come from somewhere, and we have to put in the tools in places to be able to do that for us.
Okay. Tom Gorman, questions for the candidates here?
How would you address the homeless and addiction problem that's in the city?
Moses, let's
Me?
start with you.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, we know, and I'm going to jump on this, I favored the ordinance that we passed to deal with the homeless situation in this city. Because we all know that over 60% of the people who are homeless in our city are not from Brockton. They come from other communities. We have folks coming from Boston, from Worcester, from Springfield, from the North Shore, the South Coast. They come into Brockton for services because we do have those services in Brockton. After treatment, they are discharged to our streets and they become homeless in our city. So I, as mayor, we have some funds that we have gotten through through the opioid program, that we're going to put those funds to work. We're going to create additional programs for those that are willing to take those programs. We're going to create an opportunity for some people that really want to work while they're still in Brockton to do some work with that. But the idea is that we are going to have to clean up our city. And those that want help, we will help. Those that do not want help, then we have to deal with those accordingly.
Same question.
Yeah, thank you. This is an excellent question in regard to obviously the situation that we are dealing with. You know, the homeless situation, it's very tough. It's not just a local issue. It's not just a state issue, but it's a nationwide issue. So in my view, based on what I've been advocating for, is a different approach. There are people on the street that are facing mental problems. There are people on the street that are facing substance abuse problems. And there are people on the street that are facing housing problems. Now the question is, how do we address that? Well, it's not just a one-man show. We have to come together as a community, as a state, as a nation, to address these problems. What I've done on the councils, I work in collaboration with Father Bells to remove the shelter that we had downtown and put it somewhere else, in collaboration with different organizations to carry on. So the folks that are facing mental problems, we gotta be able to approach these people accordingly. And that's one of the reasons my opponent filed an ordinance to criminalize these people by putting them in jail. I voted against it because I did not believe in it, and I still believe that it wasn't good, and that's why we are here.
Did you want to follow up with that? Okay. Did you want to follow up? He mentioned about the ordinance.
He says I filed the ordinance. I co-sponsored the ordinance proudly. To date, in November, the ordinance passed in January. To date, we have arrested 0 people. We have put 0 folks in jail. But guess what the ordinance is doing? It's preventing other communities from sending their homeless people in here because they know we have an ordinance in the book. And the Father Bill program that actually moved out of the city, what did that do for the bridges and the underpasses that we have in this city? It didn't touch it one bit because those individuals that are under those bridges are coming from other communities.
Okay, 30 seconds.
So the reason why we haven't been able to arrest anybody is because it was illegal. Because you cannot criminalize homelessness. That's not a crime. That's a reason why you gotta be able to tell people the truth. That's a problem. You have a trust problems, and you have a problem of not telling the truth. Like I said, it's not a one person's problems. We gotta be able to attract it, to address that accordingly. So what I will do as the next mayor is to work in collaboration with every organization and the state to see how best we can address the homeless problem, not to put them in jail. I will not support that.
Okay, 30 seconds. He said you've got a problem telling the truth.
Well, actually, this young man has a problem telling the truth. He has no idea what the numbers are for the city. He basically came out and said, I went to Miami in September. It was in August. He was actually part of my team, by the way, in November, December, January, February, March, April. In May, he decided to run as a candidate. He said in my office in April, telling us how great of a person he is and how we're going to run this city together and how great the city is. And then three weeks later, he decides to run for office. I can't tell the truth.
Okay, 30 seconds.
Well, I'll tell you this. I mean, obviously, you said that I have problems with numbers.
You do.
And I do not. And I'll tell you why. January 2nd, 2020, you negotiated a contract with Aquaria. And I told you that I have the evidence to justify it, where you negotiate with them to buy the water plant for $58 million. And this letter was sent to City Hall September 20, 2022. So now, and I'm glad I'm bringing this, at least they can see it. I do not have a problem of telling the truth. Your name is in this. This is you negotiating this, right? When you were acting mayor, you wanted to buy a plant for $58 million. Not me.
Okay.
And I will not buy that plant.
Okay. Got 30 seconds. Did you want another 30
Absolutely
seconds?
nothing wrong. Who said I wasn't telling the truth about negotiating a plant? I negotiated a plant. I wanted to buy a plant. I still wanted to buy a plant because we got a water problem in this community. So where is the lie on negotiated a water plant? You know, but you, on the other hand, sitting at the office telling me that you're not going to run, and then you decide to run, and you want people to believe anything that comes out of your mouth, counselor.
Okay, let's another 30 seconds, and we're going to switch
Thank
topics.
you, and I'll leave it there. I promise my family and my team that I will not make this campaign personally.
Thank
You are making it personally because you have nothing to run on. I never said that. You said you never negotiated to buy Aquaria for $58 million. And I said you did. And here's the letter from Aquaria. You didn't think I have this. This is from them. And if any of you would like to see it after this, I'll be more than happy to do it. $58 million. And your name is exactly here.
Right there.
So at the end of the day, you lie
No.
and not me.
Okay. Since you call him a liar, 30 seconds, and then we're going to move on
Listen,
to
we're
another
not going
topic.
to get back into this lying
Okay.
stuff because we know that the only liar that sits here is this young man. I left the Aquaria purchase and sale for $58 million on the desk of the new mayor for him to forward it to the city council. I never said I did not negotiate in 2019. What I didn't negotiate is in 2025 when I went to Miami that there was no negotiation. What existed was the negotiation in 2019 when I was the mayor elected to negotiate that, and I did negotiate.
Okay, we're going to move on to another topic now. If you feel during any of these answers that you don't get to completely say everything that you want to say, you can say that as your closing statement. You're listening to a political forum here. It's for the mayor of Brockton. Both candidates are here in studio. We've got Jean Bradley Derenoncourt and Moises Rodrigues, and of course, a lot of interest and a lot of passion in this race. Let me just ask you one question, and this is not like a forum question, but we talked about the homeless population. Is there a general estimate of how many homeless people actually live in Brockton? I've never heard a number. I don't really know.
There are less than 150 people on our streets in Brockton.
Okay. Do you think that number's accurate? I don't
do
know.
not know the number.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Let's move on back to Chris now. Chris Helms.
Yes, I'd like to stay with Aquaria. For listeners who aren't aware, Aquaria is very important for Brockton because it provides a secondary water source. So it's very clear, and you've already heard, one candidate supports Brockton buying that water source, and the other one does not. So I'd like each of you to tell me and the listeners what's your best argument for your position, whether it's to buy the plant or not.
Jean? Bradley?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously, I am 100% in favor of not buying the plant because, number one, the plant is old, and number two, we cannot buy something that we know which has been failing the city of Brockton. That's a problem. And at the end of the day, if you wanted to buy the plant, I mean, you've been in government for more than 20 years. Why now? That's the thing. And number two, according to DEP, the city of Brockton is under no obligation to buy that plant. And at the end of the day, you've been telling people that by law, we are required to have this. And we got to what we read based on DEP, it is a recommendation just in case. And even as we speak, Aquaria is not able to produce the water that we are paying for. Now, why would we purchase something like this when they cannot produce what they are required to do so? So that's part of the reason I said we cannot and I will not buy the water plant for, even as we speak, more than $58 million as opposed to you.
Same question. Moises?
Well, first and foremost, again, here's the number of issues. Aquaria is 17 years old. And it's a plant that's been rarely used because we don't use the water from it. So according to the experts in that particular field, a plant that's barely used is somewhere around 5 years old. It's like you buying a brand new car, locking it up in a garage and barely using it. That car is still pretty young when it comes to its sake. I am for purchasing that because we are under a decree, state decree, to have a secondary water source in our city. Otherwise, we cannot develop the city like we want to. And we have a water ban in our city right now because we don't have enough water. We're killing that lake in Pembroke because we're taking too much water out of it. It's under 50% of what it needs to be at this stage. We must have a secondary water source. Wells around us in the Bridgewaters and the surrounding communities are failing with PFAS. Therefore, we must come up with a secondary water source. And I am for purchasing it because it could actually bring additional revenue into the community. And there's nothing 58 about it, by the way.
Okay. Did you want to follow up the more water questions, Chris?
No, that's good. Thank you.
Okay. Tom Gorman?
And just to jump off on that, do you think the city should look at joining the MWRA?
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
Actually,
Yeah,
Gene.
absolutely. I mean, not even that. I mean, if you take a look at the trial books, there are so many options that we have in regard to looking into it. The belief that has been put into people's mind is that we are under obligation to purchase this plant. The problem is that there is no obligation, and I quote, according to DEP. There's none. So it is a recommendation just in case to have that. So a lot of people in the city believe that we are obligated to purchase that plant. And at the end of the day, that's not true. And part of the reason why I do not want to buy that water plant is because, right, when it's come down to water plant, their lifelong is not more than 20 years. And you said it, as we speak, it's over 17 years. So why would we buy something like this with our taxpayer when our bond rating is under watching right now? It is a AA negative in terms of like the city credit score. So it's much more complex than that. And I believe that we will have opportunity to talk about what it means to buy the plant and how we're going to pay for it. That's the question.
Do you have a follow-up for that? Okay. This was sent in actually from a list. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss you? I'm sorry. I was so trying to keep score here, and I jumped ahead. I'm sorry.
Because you said about the MWRA.
Right.
Well, we have done a study to look into other secondary sources. Again, we are not under any obligation to buy aquaria, but we are under obligation to have a second water source. The state doesn't care where you get your water from. We did the due diligence into MWRA. It was going to cost the taxpayers in the city $124 million to hook up to MWRA. You know where? At Blue Hills in Canton, for us to go through the permitting, to go through Stoughton, through Canton, to hook up into Canton at Blue Hills. Therefore, the powers to be back 17 years ago decided to go with the aquaria. And besides, if you buy aquaria, you buy the plant, it's like you're buying a house, something that you know nothing about. Because when you buy a house, it doesn't matter how big the mortgage is, you buy it and you pay installments. And that's what you pay. And currently we're paying $9 million a year to Aquaria in installments. So that's what that would come under.
Okay. 30 seconds. Do you want to respond to that?
Absolutely. I mean, I just said it again. And I said, for somebody who's been in government for more than 25 years, you do have an inability to tell the truth. And I just quoted for you. And I said, quote me on that when I said, according to DEP, the city of Brockton is under no obligation to have that. It is a recommendation because it would be in the interest of the city to have this just in case. It's not a mandate, it's not a law, and it's not a obligation. That's what you want people to believe. You keep on saying that we have to buy the water plant because by law we have to do so according to DEP. And those letters are there. I have access to them, and you have access to them too. Maybe you never read them.
You're listening to a political forum here. The race is for the mayor of Brockton. We've got some good debate here. Two men very passionate about how they feel about the city of Brockton. I'm going to switch topics real quickly. And this was sent in by a listener. And the listener wrote in, public safety, a top priority for many Brockton residents. What qualities and character traits do you believe are the most important in a successful police chief? And how would you approach the process of selecting and appointing the next chief of police? Moises.
A police chief needs to be someone that listens to both her or his men and women within the force, and also have an ear on the ground to figure out exactly what's going on in the community. Be visible, be understanding of the issues that we face in the community. We cannot continue to throw police at the crime problems, a crime issue. Crime is a multifaceted issue within our community that has to be worked at between both the police and the community itself. We cannot just sit here and throw police at problems, hoping that the problems go away. The men and women in the Brockton Police Department, they do a great job in solving crime. We don't necessarily just want to solve crime. We want to work on preventing crime. And that's what everybody needs to kind of pipe up and strap their boots and help us deal with the criminal issues in our community.
Same question.
Yes, thank you for the question. I mean, I think in regard to the safety situation that we are having in the city, we need somebody who's willing and able to listen to everyone. It doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, where you live. As long as you are a resident of the city, the chief gotta be able to talk to you. And especially the men and women, he or she will be in charge. So in my view, I'm the only person as we speak on this stage or sitting here who is serving in a law enforcement capacity. I am a correctional officer. I work at the jail and I follow leadership. When they give me an assignment to do, it doesn't matter who is giving it to me, I follow it. So we need somebody who is able and willing to do his or her job, not to take anything personally. And I said that too. It's a collaboration between law enforcement and the community. We must be able to work together as a community. This selection and this campaign is not about a one-person show. It's all about all of us. And that's one of the reasons the person will have the ability to listen and the capacity to make the judgment.
Same question, Moses.
Well, I started.
Yeah, he started
What?
it.
How am I getting this mixed up?
It's all good.
I'm sorry. It's all. Anything else? A 30-second follow-up?
Well, listen, I've got the support of the men and women in the police department in
Okay.
Brockton. They supported my candidacy because they believe that I'm actually able to do this. And all I can say is basically, I believe that the police chief will go along with directions because I think it's important for the person sitting in the mayor's seat to provide those directions. And as far as service is concerned, I did serve 6 years in the United States Navy. So I don't know what else you can actually do in terms of serving a country that people don't quite understand.
Okay. If you want another 30 seconds to talk about the same issue, since I kind of messed up that question.
No, it's all good. I mean, to continue on this is that, like, I think we have to pay attention to Brockton. Brockton, as we speak, is one of the most diverse places in Massachusetts. So at the end of the day, we gotta be able to have a police chief who understands diversity and what it means to have people in a community that looks differently and speak multiple languages. And that's what we need, because at the end of the day, you cannot talking about solving a problems without even knowing what the problem is. And I said that. The definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expect something different.
Okay. Thank you. Let's go back to Chris Helms at the Enterprise. Question?
Yes, I wanted to pick up on Tom had asked about economic development, and I wanted to have give a more specific question. So your predecessor, Mayor Sullivan, his administration has bet big on the idea that people who work in Boston are going to buy a little 1 or 2 bedroom next to the commuter rail in downtown Brockton, and that's going to solve Brockton's problems. Not exactly, that's too broad a brush, but the question is, this focus on transit-oriented development, is it the right strategy for Brockton, or will you take it in a different direction as mayor?
Okay, let's start with Gene.
I mean, it's pretty easy. What we have to do, Chris, is obviously what I call combining smart investment. And what I mean by this is that to capitalize, if not maximize, with the federal government and the state government to come up with a solution in terms of like money. To go back to what I stated earlier, if you have education under control, if you have public safety under control, you said that. Somebody sent this question because safety is a problem. If the city is safe and people trust the educational system, believe me, people will move in. Business will be able to come down and invest. It's a community partnership whereby people trust the system, that the government will not only protect them, but also protect their interests. That's what we do. It calls smart investment. And at the end of the day, we don't have that. As we speak, the bond rating for the city of Brockton is a AA negative. What I will do, if I do become the next mayor of Brockton, is to bring it hopefully to a AA plus. And I will leave it there.
Okay.
Well, listen, you got to look at this from two lenses. Housing is good because Our people are paying an arm and a leg for rent in our community, so diversity in housing is also good. But we also have to have investment in our community. More places for people to go shop and enjoy themselves so that they don't have to hop back on that train and go back into Boston for other fun stuff. So you got to have, it's got to be multifaceted in the sense where you got to have two things working together in order to do what you want to do. You want to bring people in, but you also want to give them something to do, because otherwise they're just going to be sleeping in our community and not really investing in our community. So in order for them to invest in our community, they have to be able to sleep and play in our community as well to make it work, because otherwise it's not going to work. You know, housing is great. You know, we need more housing. Every day I run the Cape Verdean Association, people go up there, oh, my rent is this, my rent is this, I can't afford it. So housing is good, but we need to have additional investment for people to enjoy while they stay in our city.
Okay. 30 seconds.
Yeah,
You
let
want
me
to talk
just
about housing again?
Yeah, let me just put it to you like this. Downtown Brockton is dead. There's nothing there. So if somebody would like to come downtown Brockton right now to have fun, the question is, where do you go, with all due respect? How do we keep the young folks not to go outside? So what I will do is to create an environment where people, business people, can make investment and change downtown Brockton. And that's why I said we cannot repeat the same thing again. We must be able to look forward, not backwards. And that's what I will do. And that's the difference between you and I, because you've been there and haven't done anything, and you are hoping to do something different.
Another 30 seconds on that same topic, because I gave that to him.
You know what? I've been there. I served as mayor. I've served as president of the city council several times, something he has never done because he's not there long enough. I chair various committees in the council, something he's never done because he hasn't been there long enough. But you know what? You got to build some things in order to do that. You have to have relationships with people in order for you to do that. That's how things work in our community. You build, you create relationships, you foster those relationships. It doesn't matter how, I could be in city government for 100 years. You know, it's not the age of the man that counts. It's the age of the idea. You know, and when I was in that office, I did some things, and you can go investigate exactly what I did while I was there.
Okay. Any follow-up to that, Chris?
No, that's all.
Okay. Tom, question for the candidates.
Do you think you should have more youth programs in the city?
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that our campaign has been talking about is a youth council, whereby the young people will be able not just to live in the city, but to be part of the government. Because at the end of the day, the foundation of any community is the young people. How do we get them engaged? How do we mobilize them? And again, this is a good segue. How do you talk about public safety without talking about how do you keep these young people from doing anything wrong? Because as we speak in the city of Brockton, there is nothing for our young people to do. What I will do, if I am lucky enough to become the next mayor, I will work in collaboration with the youth to build what I call youth council and take advice from them in terms of like how do we move forward. We gotta be able to pay attention to the young people because they are the future of our community. And you said that. It's not based on your age, but the vision. And that's the difference between you and I. I have the visions, I have the plan, and I show it. The problem is that you refuse to accept it. And as we speak, we will not go negative. But the people understand that I have been doing nothing but running a positive campaign.
Okay. Same question.
Well, there are some things for the youth to do in our city. We've got great programs that happens in our city, youth soccer, youth softball, a variety of stuff. Now, do we have enough things? The answer is no. We need more spaces, more places for our kids to do. I run the Cape Verdean Association. Every summer, we run a summer program with almost 300 kids. This summer, we provided jobs to 75 young people in our community. And you know that, Chris. You've been there to that program. You've seen it. And it works. Now, is that the only one? No, we need more. The Y does a program. Boys and Girls Club, they do programs. We need a lot more to do. But there are things happening in our community, in our city. Let's not just kind of throw out the baby with the bathwater that there's nothing going on for the youth in the community, because that's not true. We've got almost 5,000 kids in that Brockton High School. You should go there after school and see all the happenings that takes place within a high school that I'm proud to have graduated from.
Okay. I want to move on to the next question, unless you had a follow-up for that, Tom. A lot of people, when it comes to any political race, they're thinking, listening to two candidates, they're thinking, what's in it for me? So to the average voter or resident in Brockton, if you're elected, what difference is it going to make to that person? Moises.
Well, listen, I've said it from the very get-go that this campaign is not about me, but about us. You know, I created the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council that he was talking about when I was with the Harrington administration. I created that. I created the Community Advisory Council under Mayor Harrington when I was there as well back in 2007. Not in the 1800s, but back in 2007. So what's in there for us? This is going to be an us thing. It's going to be an us coming together to decide what's best for the city of Brockton. Not one person can have an answer to everything that the city needs. Not one person. But as a community, we can come together and figure out exactly what we need as a community to move Brockton forward. Brockton is a city of 106,000 people. You're telling me that out of the 106,000 people, we can't get a group of people that can come together on a regular basis to put their minds together to come up with some solutions to some problems that we're facing in this community? You bet we can, because Brocktonians can do that. We will do that, but it has to be done together, not just as an individual, as a dictator, try to dictate how things go.
Okay, same question.
I mean, yes, absolutely. What we have to look at is that, are you in this for yourself, or are you in this for everyone? Well, I mean, I think my life has been showing that I am in this for everyone. What I would like the people in Brockton to know is that I will fight for you the same way that I will fight for my family. I will fight for every single resident, no matter where you come from and how long you've been living in the city. This campaign, like I said before, is not about one particular group of people. It's about us. The city of Brockton has always been diverse. Diversity in this regard is a strength, not a weakness. And if I'm lucky enough to become your next mayor, that diversity will reflect the administration, and knowing that the person at City Hall is somebody who is fighting for every child, every senior citizen, and everybody who has a desire to move and live in the city of Brockton, in terms of like what we can do as a community and how do we go from there.
Now we're going to move on to the lightning round. This is where you answer either yes or no, or one or two sentences. The reporter will ask you what kind of an answer they want. So, Chris Helms, let's start with you. Lightning round question for the candidates.
All right. Yes or no? Turn Campanelli Stadium into a soccer stadium.
Yes or no, Moises?
Yes.
Okay. Anyone question? Okay. I always try to
Come on
get
now, you don't have one?
No. Oh, your top news source each day. Lightning, quick.
Brockton Enterprise, the Boston Globe.
Okay.
CNN.
Okay. Chris.
Oh, you didn't say local or national?
Just top news source.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
All right. There's been discussion of whether a business improvement district downtown would be part of the puzzle to solve downtown. So are you in favor of a business improvement district in downtown Brockton, yay or nay?
Yes.
Jane. Moses.
Anything that brings Brockton back, yes.
Okay. See, nobody can just say yes. Okay.
You
I
said a
said
sentence.
yes. Come on now.
Just yes
You
or no.
said a sentence.
No, it's either yes or no or a sentence or two.
Oh,
Okay. Okay. Can you cook? Yes or no?
Not very good.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you cook? What's
Yes.
your best recipe?
Mac and cheese and lobster.
Okay. Do you have it?
Yes.
Do you have a recipe even though you can't cook very well, Moses?
It's true.
My wife's a great cook.
Okay, there you go. And what is something that people would be surprised to know about you? One sentence. Gene Bradley.
I'm a proud American.
Okay. Okay. Moses, something people would be surprised to know about you.
I've been married for 39 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome. We're going to go to closing statements right now, although this has been great. You guys could talk for hours. I love it. So we're going to go to closing statements. Closing statements, remember, they're just 1 minute, and we are going to switch the order. We started with Moses, then went with Gene at Gene Bradley at the beginning. So now we're going to switch it. We're going to go to closing statements. Gene Bradley, Derenoncourt.
Very good. I would like to thank you, Christine. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Mark. It is an honor for me to be here. And, of course, thank you to my opponent for taking the time to come down here. Since day one, I've been showing you my commitment and willingness to serve you. As a young person coming in, I challenge myself to be part of the solution, not the problems, whether I was in school or working at Chris's restaurant. And to justify what I just said, Gigi, who's the daughter of Chris's restaurant, just endorsed my campaign for the first time in history because she was my first boss, and she said the proudest moment of her life was voting for me September 16. And I hope the proudest moment for you will be to vote for me on November 4th. I have been serving you not just as an elected official, but as an employee, either in the House, in the Senate, in the governor's office, and of course, as one of your city council. I am Gene Bradley Derenoncourt, the guy with the longest last name, and I hope I can count on your vote November 4th for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moises
I
Rodrigues.
too want to thank you for hosting this and thank Gene for being here as well. One needs to have the right temperament and discipline to be able to do this job. There are things that the mayor can do by himself, but there are things that the mayor will rely on the city councilors and the school committee to do. Brockton is a Plan B city where the council has a lot more authority in some cases than the mayor does, and you are required to have those relationships. There's got to be some serious collaborations between the council, the school committee, and the mayor's office. I have done this before. I was the mayor of this city for 7 months, and I was able to do some wonderful things on behalf of the folks in this community. It's not by accident that I've been endorsed by the labor unions of City Hall, the police, the fire, and a number of labor unions throughout this state, because a lot of them do believe in me, in my candidacy. I might have been in city government for the last 10, 15, 20 years, but the problem is that I believe in our city, and I'll continue to believe in the city, and I ask you to vote for us on this election.
Thank you very much, gentlemen. You've been listening to a WATD Political Forum. We've had both candidates here in studio, Moises Rodrigues, who you just heard from, Gene Bradley Derenoncourt, both candidates here. And we've had our media partner, Brockton Community Access, Chris Helms from the Brockton Enterprise. Tom Gorman works with me, Larry Nelson, our engineer, Charlie Fulmer, our timer tonight, and it looks like, we got the photographer there from the Enterprise too, Mark Vasconcelos. Remember, this will be up online with WATD. Brockton Cable will be running it on their station as well. And we will bring you complete election night results on November 4th. Remember, get out and vote. If you don't vote, you don't have a voice. I'm Christine James, 95.9 WATD. Thanks for listening.
The South Shore's first choice for live team coverage of breaking news, emergency traffic, severe weather, and high school football. 95.9 WATD FM Marshfield. FM Marshfield. FM Marshfield. FM Marshfield. FM Marshfield. FM Marshfield.